Hey guys, here's the gear for today. Semogue 1438, number 16, set from the UK vintage Gillette Aristocrat line. Put it down before I fumble and drop it. Black, Gillette 7 o'clock black, also known as the Super Platinum. Sometimes does really well for me. And then the Wilkinson sword that's in the blue container. Used it the last day or so. I didn't show you the actual big container because it's down there soaking. I discovered that it seems like it takes a while to load the soap off the thing. But once you can get enough soap on your brush, can give you a very slick lather. I like the scent pretty well. Standard blue type Aqua Velva family of scents, you know, kind of fresh, clean, maybe a little bit of an aquatic to it. So let us open up this 7 o'clock black. And this one, according to the dots, has 10 uses on it. I have nerded up because I am a nerd, picking my shaving razors, at least when I feel this way. Sometimes I just have a idea about which razor I want to use, so I grab it and go. However, sometimes, now it's time to get my face wet. However, sometimes I want to pick a razor that hasn't been used in a while. But I want that razor to be one that I really enjoy using. And so I took 2 tables of information and I kind of joined them up. One table is the number of uses I have per razor. The other table is I kind of put my razors in my favorite order. It's close. It's not perfect, but it's, you know, close. And to get it perfect, you know, it'd take too long, humming and hawing over them, you know. And so I combine those 2 tables to look at the difference of here are the top used razors, and then here's my ordered list of favorites. Is there a favorite that's in the top that hasn't been used very much in the other table? That's what I care about. Let's find one that I really enjoy using and that I just haven't for whatever reason. Maybe when I got it, another razor came along that I was experimenting or playing with, and I just kind of never went back to it, you know. And I discovered that this 16 right here, I had several good uses of it, but not as many as I thought. So I'm going to throw a new blade in. I haven't tried this blade in this razor. Face is wet. So now we're going to go about loading. Now this soap, I'm going to pour off the bloom water. Last time I poured that bloom water into my bowl, and it was too much water, and that messed me up from the beginning. It's a lot harder to add soap into the mix than to add water into the mix. It was just too much. Okay, now let's overkill. I'm gonna actually, you know what? Let's leave a little bit of. Now let's use my normal method. Shake most of the water out. Let's load for 120 seconds, 2 minutes. Now let's just do 90 seconds and see where that gets us. Oh, we're about to hit 30 on my phone clock there. I will perhaps stop and add water if needed. I did discover that sometimes when loading this guy, the brush kind of needed to add a little bit of water to the soap because it started to get dry and pasty. All right, so we started at 30. We'll do it for 1.5 minutes. It was a really soft brush I used last time I used this, and so I'm thinking it needed a longer time. And This guy's got more backbone. So he, all right, good, 30 seconds. And so he may be able to, you know, you have less load time than the soft badger I had the other day. It's just a matter of time. So many questions online about, not to me, but that I see in forums. You know, here's the soap I like to use. What's going to be a good brush for it? They all work. Any good brush will work with any good soap. It's just time. You know, if you've got a stiff, scritchy brush, it's going to dig up that soap. All right, 1 minute now. It's going to dig up that soap quicker than a really luxuriously soft brush will. And just kind of medium pressure here. And almost there, about 7 more seconds. And there we go. That was a long time. Surely enough came up off of the puck here. Clean it off. Maybe I loaded twice as much as I need to. However, the first time I tried it, I got it too wet as a test lather. Second time, I got it too wet again because I've started with too much water in the bowl. So this time I'm backing off. Let's not play all loosey-goosey. I'm going to play conservatively. And my normal method, just a much longer load than usual. And you wouldn't think so, right? It doesn't look like a minute and a half worth of loading right there. And so now we will start adding water to the soap. And then if this is excessive, then I can make guesses as to how excessive it was. If I end up with 8 passes of lather, then, you know, I can dial it back by maybe half amount of loading time for this brush at least. It really did seem like this soap just needed more load time. I did get, in both cases, both previous uses, I got nice lathers, but it just took a little bit to get there. And it took, I kept going, having to go back to the puck to get more soap. And so hopefully I have eliminated that as a price. And it looks like I have, because this amount usually turns into a good amount of lather. One thing is, I do know that since I started out with too much water last time, I know that this soap can handle having all that water up front. So that's good to know. Some soaps you have to add water more slowly. Mystic Water soaps is that way. You have to add water very slowly at first. And then once you've got a teaspoon into it or something, then you can kind of treat it like normal. But yeah, looking pretty good. Now, it would be crazy if I don't have enough lather, wouldn't it? 1.5 minutes of loading. Some people might say that makes this soap not worth it. Tell you what, I looked up this soap on Amazon. They want to charge you $8 for it. $9 maybe. No way. For that price, there are other better soaps out there. Haslinger, Arko. What else is good? Fine accoutrements, the pucks. But it's one of my favorite companies. But they're doing away with just the individual refill pucks because they had those those ceramic bowls, you know, that you could put the pucks in, but they just didn't sell as well. And so the owner told me they were going to quit doing that. Yeah, okay, we've got enough soap. So the other thing I learned about this one is that it does not need to be pulled out all elastic like I sometimes do to my soaps. The best soaps you can do that with. You can make them elastic. Milk steak is that way. You can just make them all elastic and gooey and all that stuff, and they will hold up just fine and give you a wet lather experience while still keeping a creaminess to them. And that is a delight. This is not one of those soaps. Now, I have heard that this is one that you can get at Walmart in some areas of the country for just a couple of bucks. So that, at least that's good. It's a good, inexpensive option. Okay, we'll feel of the lather. Yeah, nice and slick. I don't think I'm going to add any more water. And so I'm just going to give it a good mix here for a little bit, just to kind of make sure. When the lather gets on this handle, there's not a lot to hold on to, so I like to rinse it off. I imagine I'm going to really like this brush later on when it keeps splitting tips and gets even softer than it and more comfortable than it already is. It's got decent backbone, and when I say decent, I mean a little higher than medium, and so I expect that's going to continue. So the tips then are probably one of the few things that are going to change, and so I probably will move this knot into another more ergonomic handle because I'm really liking it. All right. Well, this lather looks like I've got plenty to do the job. And it is holding its structure a little bit more solidly than some soaps some lathers that I work with, but you know, this one just can't be taken as thin as others. Now, water on my face. It is wet. And let's see what lather feels like today. Well, I tell you what, I definitely have made a lather that's going to be easier to reproduce. And I don't really think I overdid it in terms of load time. I kind of thought I might, but just decided to play it safe, you know? In a sense, this is like an oil where we are wanting to rub it into our skin, or like a lotion, because we want it to get on our skin and bond kind of with the top layer of your skin, so that it protects, makes it slick, so the blade can just roll right over the skin, but clip the hairs nicely. number 16. And this is the British Aristocrat series. Now they had set numbers. It's not really a razor number, it's a set number. And that's important because there were some set numbers that used the same piece of hardware. And so if you don't actually have the box it came in, there are a few models where you really don't know which number it is. So this blade's working pretty well in this razor for me. Not really chattering too much, not being very vocal. This is not being super smooth. I do feel the cutting edge, but it's held in check. It's predictable and consistent, so it's enjoyable shave. All right, let's load up again. And judging from how much lather I have now, I could have backed off just a little bit in the loading, but not all that much. I guess it just takes a while. The soak just, and that was with, I had soaked it not long, but maybe 5 or 10 minutes. With cold water, it probably would have been better to use hot, you know. I don't mind soaking a truly hard puck, and this is definitely a hard puck for the time it takes me to kind of put my gear together. And then that's my baseline. I'd rather than load for longer, you know, to make any of the adjustments, instead of like, okay, well, it's half an hour before I want to shave, so let me go and put some water on the puck, you know. Okay, so how does the lather feel now? It does have a good slickness to it. It's not got a lot of cushion, you know, thick viscosity. It's light. I probably am on the wet end of kind of the perfect zone, maybe. But it still has some slickness. It hasn't broken down. Maybe. We'll see how this second pass goes. I might like it a little thicker than this for this particular soap. Cross grain now on my cheeks. So many times cheeks are more predictable and consistent, kind of standard. And your neck is where things get wonky. I mean, there are definitely some shavers I've heard who have cheeks that, you know, where the hairs go sideways, like toward their ears or toward their mustache area from the cheeks. But often it's a pretty standard area. It's just in the neck where things get... I just said that. Never mind me. And rinse. Okay, yeah, this is not the wet end of perfect. It's a little too wet, I would classify this. And so one thing that could help, dab the water off your face after the rinse. Now, and this has a lot of structure to it. It's very, you know, puffy and foamy and things like that. So if you like a creamy lather, maybe work this one, adding not quite as much water as you might think. However, a lot of people, I believe, are kind of chronic underwaterers, and so maybe you don't need to do anything. have this guy kind of have a creamy nature to him and more slickness. And then that's the lack of slickness is why I'm not putting it in the perfect zone. I'm not putting it on the wet side of perfect, you know. I'm putting in the too wet type of lather for me. Let's see how this, yeah. Now it may not have as much slickness in my fingers, but it feels great on the face. And so I could see this one being a soap like Williams, where people kind of give up on it. And they assume it's junk because they weren't able to figure it out quickly enough. And there's some, you know, there's some good reasons to do that. I mean, we do have so many great options out there. However, this is inexpensive. And so if this is in your price range, if this is the only soap at the local drugstore, you know, I think it's respectable. You just kind of have to load it for a while. This is my third pass. So right here in my trouble spot, I'm going to switch tactics and come from the bottom and go up like this. The 16 is not a mild razor. To me, I mean, some might think that, you know, it's all relative, but to me, it's in the more the middle ground. The blade feel that you get, and but it's consistent. It's smooth in the sense that the blade isn't all chattery and weird and sometimes bites you and sometimes doesn't. And so I think it's a good shaving experience. And so I'd put it in the kind of the moderate, kind of riding that line between comfort and a close cutting blade. So that's 3 passes, and I have a pretty nice cut right here in my trouble spot. I'm happy with that. Do I have any length on any hairs? No, I really don't. So I'm very happy with that. I didn't have to do a touch up or anything. It's not a super young blade, but it's definitely not an old blade. 11th use now, I believe. So that's pretty compatible. Pretty good combo for me. Face feels good. Let's throw on some type of aftershave. Ooh, I used that Arko Cool yesterday and enjoyed it. I'm going to do that again. This is what that looks like. And this is kind of an international version, maybe European or whatever. So it looks a little different than a lot of US products. I don't think it has too much healthy for your skin, except for, you know, the fragrance and the alcohol is kind of what it has. Just a little bit of burn, not very much. So it looks like my technique was pretty good. And I enjoyed the, this is kind of in that same Aqua Velva family of blue type scents. So, and this doesn't have any, at least not very much menthol. And so it doesn't make my eyes water or anything like that. Not that burning type sensation that menthol gives me on occasion. So yeah, really happy with today's shave. I used 3.5 teaspoons of water for 1.5 minutes of loading. So there's our ratio. Now, what did that ratio give us? It gave us a lather that was slightly too wet for me. So in a way, maybe I could have backed off to 3 teaspoons of water added. And I've got probably 2 passes of lather in here. So it's kind of the margin that I don't mind having. Ideally, maybe just 1 pass extra, but I'm not going to complain if I have 2 extra. And so pretty good performing soap. If you're going to pay Amazon prices, I think it's too much money. But if you're going to pay the big box store prices of about $2, then I think that's probably a good price for it. And I'm going to guess it'll last a good while, but maybe you have to crank on it so much. I don't know. Kind of makes me wonder. Anyone know if this blue soap is, the blue tub here, has been around for a super long time? Is it or is it kind of newer packaging? You know, is this an old classic? Wilkinson sword definitely has been around for a long time as a brand. All right, well, I might like a creamier soap, you know, when using this little guy, because he still is quite scrubby. And so if I put him in a creamy lather, he excels, because that softens up the tip feel a little bit, and the backbone just acts as a helper to keep those tips focused on your face, and it's quite enjoyable. If I do a slightly thinner lather, then that kind of little extra help out by the creaminess is absent, and it starts to feel a lot more scrubby. Still not prickly, but just not quite as good. So I'm putting a few, I think this is 17 uses now, before now, and then this would be number 18, so he's just within 2 of getting into the main Boarathon that I've been doing for a while now, of about 9 or 10 Boar brushes, to where I'm keeping them all at the same use count, so I can watch how they develop comparatively or relatively. So, recommendations on the formula. I think just leave it, if I were to use this brush again, leave it at 1.5 minutes of loading, assuming a soak of just, 10 minutes or so while you prep your gear or use the brush your teeth, or whatever. Then maybe back off by a half a teaspoon, so maybe 3 teaspoons. And that's just a ballpark, but at least I'm in the ballpark now. The first 2 shaves, I didn't know what it was going to take. So that's quite a bit of loading. And it does take a little bit to get the lather whipped up into shape. So if you can get this, and I got this on sale. The Razor Company was running a sale. My first purchase from them, and I bought the Taj Semogue Owners Club brush in Boar from them as well at a pretty good price. And so my first interaction with that company has been a good one. So now it's just up to clean up. If you have this soap at home, sometimes this is one, if it's cheap, then just load the heck out of it, and just add enough water to make it all happen, and then you don't have to worry about it as much, because if it's cheap per shave, then just have fun, right? But then I'm sure you'll get it dialed in. I bet this is one where you wouldn't want to count the circles, because a 1.5 minutes of circles, that would probably take a while, right? So maybe a clock would be the best way. So I pulled this little guy out because he's got these are the extra grade bristles from Semogue, and they are the kind of the cheaper grade, the lower grade, stiffer, scrubbier grade hair that Semogue offers. And when the tips split, the 620 is the acrylic handled version with this hair. And when those tips split, you start to get probably this magical combination of nice backbone, of more than medium backbone with these soft tips, or semi-soft tips. And I can see this brush is on the way. And so I am looking forward to what will happen. But so it's a stiff guy right now. And if this guy takes 1.5 minutes of loading, then if I have some kind of other, luxuriously soft, brush, maybe actually this might be a better example, because it's a silver tip. It's got much less backbone in the bristles, and then the tips are just super soft. And I could conceivably think that, 2-minute load time, or maybe a touch more might be appropriate for a softer brush. So, you know, everything's relative. Consider the brush you're using. And here's what this little guy looks like after he's been stropped on a towel. So he continues to very slowly open up and bloom more. That's going to help him to contain more lather. Maybe you don't have to go back to the puck as often, back to the lather bowl as often. But I'm a big fan of this little guy. I didn't see it coming either. Here's the puck of soap after everything's kind of said and done. I should have waited, but I keep forgetting. I'd like to see how much soap I'm using per shave on this guy. But I have so many soaps that smell better, that load better, perform better, that I think I might let this be the last one, at least for a little while, until I maybe get an itch for it, because I have a good ballpark formula for this one. And so this could be a good reference out there for the Wilkinson Sword Blue tub. I've heard there's also a black tub on Amazon, probably other vendors as well. I don't know the difference. If you know, I'd love it if you educated me and helped me out and throw in a comment there to help me to know if there's a difference. Oh, good scent. Just a nice cool, that blue barbershop type Aqua Velva type scent. It's enjoyable. Really takes me back. All right, cleanup time. Comfort on the face after the shave. No irritation at all. Very good shave. The moderation, the balance that they tried to get with the 16 was definitely achieved. A very close shave, but comfortable as well, without any residual irritation. And I don't even think any irritation during the shave either. So happy with that. So now with this use in play, we can slowly move the Aristocrat up a notch in the charts here, get him closer to where he is in kind of my favorites list. And then when I've kind of balanced things out and things are kind of close to where they are in the list, then I know that my favorite razors I'm enjoying the most. And I'm still enjoying the other ones I have, just a little bit less regularly than my favorites. And I think that's kind of how it should be. Testing is fun and playing around with stuff, but at some point I do want to get into a rhythm of enjoying what I have instead of always trying something new. It'll be interesting to see how my shaving philosophy changes over time, right? You switch away from just trying samples to, you know, and some people will take a big den of 200 soaps after a few years, I think. I've seen it happen a few times, and they'll just sell it off and keep a dozen soaps. Go for that. Hey, I want to let you know something, and this seems to be a good paradigm for some people. You buy unscented soap, and then your aftershaves or your colognes are what scents you instead of the soap. And so then you don't have to have as much soap on hand. Your library is the liquids, the aftershaves, and the colognes. And so some people have done that and are very happy. Now that's not me, because I enjoy having something to smell during the shave and not waiting till the end where I put on an aftershave. And so that doesn't work for me, but I wanted to put it out there because it might be a good idea for some of you guys. All right, let's look at the Aristocrat 16, show you a few things to identify it and tell it from the others, because they can be a little confusing. We'll start from the bottom. 16 has a solid bottom here instead of hollow. And then here's the kind of barber pole looking handle. You can look at the bottom of the base plate and the top here. You don't see that diamond bevel that occurs in so many other Gillette razors. It's a solid flat base plate down here, flat as well. So that's something else to look forward to look at, identify. The rail here is one rail. Instead of having the little T's on the ends, this is called a notched center bar. There was a blade gimmick that they had these little holders, and you would put that notch in a blade, maybe turn the other thing upside down and pull it out. And so you would never have to touch the blade with your fingers. And so Gillette liked that for a little while. It didn't catch on, but we're still stuck with a lot of notches. But that's what that was. And so this is this is a notched center bar. And then let's see. That's really all to identify these guys with, to tell them apart from his brothers. So very nice. Now, of course, you've got writing underneath, you know, that says Brit Pat for British patent, made in England. So obviously that's going to tell you it's going to be a UK Aristocrat. And this is kind of a mostly solid handle, so it's got a nice weight to it. I like the balance. It really is almost like using jewelry. This is not a show quality piece, as you can see by some of the marks on the handle, but I like to use them and enjoy them, and so I don't really care if it's got a few blemishes like that. All right, I think we're cleaned up enough, and I think I covered that I enjoyed using the razor here. The blade was a good match for it. The soap was work, but it was slick. It performed well, protected me. So don't buy it, in my opinion. Don't buy it for $8. Get something else. If you get it for $2, that's about right, maybe what it's worth. Brushed it all right. The thinner lather today didn't help the brush to shine as much as it often does with a thicker lather, but that's okay. We put another use on it, and I think we're good. The Arko Cool, I've been enjoying that now for the last several minutes. And again, nothing's popping up on my face in terms of irritation or anything like that. So we've got a nice, close, comfortable shave in the books. All right, well, I hope there's been something here that's helped you out. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Take care. Bye.